Hi class, welcome to Module 2. We're going to start looking at the definition of family in this module. But I want you to note that I will try to keep the videos ready to go and the modules ready to go 4 weeks in advance so that you can always work ahead. If you choose to do that, make sure that you go back to re-enter the discussion boards when other had entered enough for you to have that interaction with each other. With that said, as I said, we're looking at defining family. And we're going to find out that looking at family, uh, it has very different meanings today than it may have in the past, or different meanings to us as individuals as it does to the legal system. So there are 4 structures for defining the family, and they include the structural definition focused on marriage, blood, legal adoptive relationships, household-based definitions, a role-based definitions as far as how we interact, and then the interactionist definition that highlights the way families are actively created through interactions and relationships. Thinking about that drives the whole discussion for this particular module. So let's move over and talk about the information from the chapter brief. We talked about this in the last module, and you definitely addressed it in the last chapter, but that there is a historical difference in how we look at families. Burgess and Locke in 1945, even before my time, okay, the families may now be defined as a group of persons united by ties of marriage, blood, or adoption, constituting a single household, interacting, communicating with each other in respects to their social role of husband, wife, mother, father, son, daughter, brother, sister, and creating and maintaining this common culture. They really saw that family as a structure, as a group out there, very defined and fitting this very rigid mold of singleness, of clearly defined. And you can see if we turned on Leave It to Beaver or some of those 50s shows out there that are on the TV land, you can pick up some of them. You would see that this was the belief system, in fact. Now, one of the things that's wrong here is even in 1945, not all families look like this. In fact, significant numbers did not look like this. There were grandparents raising grandchildren because their family members were gone. We had the upswing of divorce following World War II. So we had more single parent households in that process. We had aging populations, so they were on their own. But there was this conception of what the world looked like. So one, family as a structure. Family is a group united by the ties of marriage, blood, and adoption. And so this is what the government looks at when they have us fill out our income taxes. Who's part of our family? Now, somebody may be living with us and be part of our family, but if I don't have the legal papers in place, then it's not family to them in the same manner. So here, cohabitation, right? Children that may be extra brothers and sisters that come to you, or extra children in the family. As I had many times, there were children that came from difficult situations and they stayed with us for a while. Or even the fact that I had many foreign exchange students in the process may mean something that they weren't truly family. This is the most common approach to defining family. And it's very privileged when you think about it, in that privileged place of society. How many people don't fall into this particular space? Family as a structure ties us to marriage. It ties us in the legality of the form. The second was to look at family as a household. And interesting, when we think that family members can constitute a single household, and family as a household, when we look at it, puts us living in one place and working together on that as a structure. So earnings shared, pulling together, household tasks. So families and household are often used interchangeably, but they were distinct. Household resident unit may include a family or multiple families, but the whole household then could include that extended family or other people who have become your family in that. And it is interesting as we start exploring this. The last statement here says reflects bias towards the nuclear family. As we look at the legal condition, it biases towards the nuclear family versus those that are a family household that may be living together or in that transitional type of family as they're starting to find out whether they're fitting together, or even as they were starting to become blended families within that who has the responsibilities. The third point of the definition here is the family roles, that family members interact and communicate with each other in respect to their social roles. So what's a role? You go back and look at the chapter, what role we play, and we talked about mother, father, child, sister, brother, grandparent, what roles come into place that define us. And so as we look at this, as we define it by family roles, then those extra children that come to stay in your home are really siblings in the process, and they are supported by that, or that person who is cohabitating becomes that parent in the role, that you can see the process, or the neighbor that you're taking care of in that process becomes that aunt, uncle, right, in the role, or grandparent. And we see this as a defining of the way life goes by how one behaves in their society. Remember, families are this sociological unit. And so that we can see this structure coming into place. I have a friend who has a stepdaughter who's been here part of the summer, and she calls her aunt and uncle to that friend's children because we play those roles. They stay with us, we counter, we take care for them. And she said to us, but you treat me like family, but you aren't really family. But we play those family roles. And how often can you think about people who have played those family roles? Now, this ties greatly to the social interactionist type approach where family is an interaction, where family members create and maintain this common culture, and we do family together. We have those family get-togethers. We watch our children. We have those shared attachments, those shared activities, and emotionally are attached to each other, that they come in to look at that particular process. And so in general, as we see doing family, this interactionist approach defines family, argues that families are best understood by our patterns, that by the activities we do and how that defines. So when we're looking at families, we're looking at families from multiple ways. As you can see, these four structures give us a way to define family very differently. And as you look at your own definition of family, these are important pieces to kind of play upon. Which fits better? Or do they all fit? And we start combining them together to look at it from a different perspective. The law says, number one, maybe I say all the rest of them are still those pieces of family that come into place. So, defining from those four structures, you can clearly see how different they are and what we need to come into place. So how you define family is based on what your decision is, how you're going to handle it. Now, for government purposes, you can see why they stick with the structural definition, the most tied to that legal space that comes into place of who's family and who's not. But in relationships, it's pretty specific. So it depends, doesn't it, how we define family? And we can see that Americans define family differently depending on our background, depending on what situation we are in. Now, extended families also exist. Extended families include those of kinship nature out there. So our grandparents are easily part of that. Our great-grandparents, our nieces, our nephews, our in-laws, and all of those that come to place. And notice in this list, we include fictive or chosen involuntary kin. Like my friend, she's really a significant piece of sisterness to me. And it's very important that I play that role of aunt and uncle to her child that has no other aunts and uncles really on her side. We create this and we see these roles. And so they're very extended, that the nuclear family minimizes the importance of that extended family for Americans, and yet we'll find that they're pretty significant in support. Now, there's some racial and ethnic variations that come into place as well. And we will find that based on our ethnic backgrounds may make it significantly different how we define family. There is increasing importance on this extended network or kin part of family. In the past, a couple was not necessarily considered a family because they didn't have young children in place. The definition was family was mother, father, and children. But we know that the longer people live, the longer expectancies, the lower fertility that occurs, that many people are in a two-person relationship. We notice the difference that comes into place too with romantic relations instability, which gives us more kin to work with. The step. If you're in class during this, we'll talk about family, and you'll create where we go to the card store and who we see to send cards to. You're like an aunt to me, like a mother to me on Mother's Day cards, right? You'll see the increasing change of who we consider family just by stepbrother, half-brother, step-grandparents, all of those things are available out there. And in fact, most of my students include their animals as part of their family. Not something for our discussion for sociology at this point, though there is research in sociology of how animals are part of family. But you can see this importance of this strong network that can exist in this kinship relation, especially with some cultural differences. So extended families for families of diversity, families of color often find more instrumental exchanges, and they often have more multi-generational households, houses as well, that we see generations in there. And so this goes for the Hispanic population, the Black population, we see that as well. And by the way, for the Asian, and part of that is that familial responsibility that we'll talk about when we talk about the older population down the road, that there is an expectation of multi-generational. I was fortunate enough to visit one of my foreign exchange students from 20 years ago this last spring, and she is from Hong Kong. We spent a wonderful 3 days with her and her family, and she has 2 children and her husband, and they live in a beautiful condo, and right below them lives his parents. They eat every meal together. There is a strong generational tie together. Her sister-in-law lives in the next building over. They are always together. There is that strong multi-generational household, and they do all of their things together. Very different than our culture. When we bring those cultures to this country, we can see that it changes how we look at this picture of extended family. Um, Distance makes a difference, doesn't it? The more we move away from family, the more we're into that nuclear position, as we see so often happens in our society, especially when people have to move for jobs. Do you see the social indications coming into place? So multi-generational families, we can see non-white at the least amount of multi-generational families. The African American and Asians are about equal, Hispanic or higher. American Indian and Native Hawaiians are in the highest categories of those multi-generational families. So extended families add more diversity, they have more instrumental exchange, they do more things together, as does my daughter in Hong Kong with her family. Yeah, she doesn't do a lot of the cooking. That falls to her mother-in-law. Her father has had a stroke. She provides assistance for her mother who runs a store. You know, there are these strong ties together, and we see a number of things coming to place. Lower social class have stronger ties. And again, that varies based on that cultural background. Asian are going to have that stronger tie to begin with. The Native American, they are often of that lower SES. So they're forced together with a strong kinship of ties, but their beliefs, their cultural beliefs add to it. The respect for older adults make it significantly different. And we see that in families. Women are usually the kin keepers. They are the ones that tie the family together. They're the ones who make sure people talk to each other and are together as we look at the process of family. Sexual identity also makes a difference, and so GLBTQ families are chosen families, and so that they often are that extended and reaching for family and who plays which roles. We'll see that the American idea of individual masks the importance of the extended family, but these all tie together as we start pulling them together. You know, it's important to think about how one defines a family, both what's practical, what's symbolic. The sociologists use those four approaches to define family, and Americans are becoming more inclusive in their definition of family. So they're including more people, and that extended kin are increasingly becoming important in family. That's really different than what you're thinking about. You think about the Waltons and you think about that extended family. More extended families exist today than there did in the past. So as we define family, it does look somewhat different, doesn't it? So let me pull this back into place and talk about what you're going to do for this module. You've gone over your reading, you've watched this video, you move on to a quick video. You'll see very short here. If you pop it out, you can get it full screened out there, but it is the definition of how family is defined, and this particular video is longer. It is about household and families and the sociology definition of what is a household and a family. So a lot more information for you as you explore this than in the previous module. So a few more things to do, but still a lot less time than the 3 hours you'd be in class as you start exploring this. Your discussion board is located through here, and you will do article on families. If you click on to that, you'll jump into the discussion board. You'll see that your question is your second newspaper article, family variations, and how it ties into place. You also have the link to your module quiz. And again, 10 questions for you here as you hop into the quiz for the week. Both of those have due dates by Sunday at 11:30. Looking forward to your discussion. Hope you have a great week.